Wait until it's cool to the touch, and then we'll rinse it off, scuff it up with some steel wool and go from there. Washed off, which is what the instructions said. Now we're going to be taking a nice steel wool and basically card it. That's basically what I'm doing. Try to get it all evened out, get that top layer off. Not sure if I'm going to do another coat or not. Haven't decided, but we'll see. We'll see how this all turns out. After it's carded, I'm going to go ahead and do it again, and then I'm going to hit it with some barricade and get it nice and oiled up so it doesn't really rust. That's pretty much all I'm going to show of this part. I start cleaning the toe plate, the butt plate, and try to get some of this rough stuff out so we can start inletting it. There. Alright. The butt plate in, got it screwed. Looks pretty decent. Working on the toe plate now. Got the little punch holes in there. I'm looking for my drill bit, and then we're going to drill the holes and go from there. Still not exactly happy with the way this bottom piece is, but it seems to be that's the way it is. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll figure out something to touch it up a little bit better with. Plate in. Hope these are the right screws. That instruction book is not exactly the greatest. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. I might just leave it like that and smooth it out. Front thimble, we got it all inlet. Everything looks good. Went ahead and taped it down and marked where we're going to drill. We drilled the hole. Now we're going to go ahead and put the screw through and see how much of that we got to take back out and file down. Around a little bit. Got tired of filing down that screw for that thimble. So what I did was go ahead and put the barrel tendon in. When it got too tight where I couldn't push too further, I used a brass punch and the mallet, using the rubber side more than anything. It was a good fit. I just wanted to make sure it was a tight fit. I did a little bit of sanding on the back side. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the other tendon, and we'll keep going. Filing it down, I got some soft jaws. I didn't have a piece of wood to use, like it said in the book. Keep filing it down. It was a good bit out, so hopefully I'll get this one done, and then we can actually go on to the other parts. I think we got it. Goes in there pretty good. A little bit tight, gets a little caught, but nothing too big. I might actually back out the screw just a tad because that's probably it. I countersunk it pretty good. Alright. It's countersunk pretty good. It is flush. I couldn't get any more. Well, I could get it deeper, but I'm not going to. So on to the next step. The tendons are in. Trying to measure right down the middle. Trying to get it quite centered on it. It's looking like 97 is good for this one. We'll try doing the same thing over here. Make sure it's on there. And 97 is looking about right for that too. Drill press, I evened everything out using a level to make sure everything was level right. Drilled the holes. Somehow I get the feeling that front one's not right. But we're about to see the moment of truth here. Alright, let me get the barrel removed. Oh, you can see that one, man, I got close, but I got it on there right. The other side, like I said, the front, I knew I was off for some reason. I didn't get into the barrel, thankfully. I was dead center there. Not sure what I'm going to do now, but it's right there in the tendon, so it should still hold. We'll see. To the trigger assembly, we got some work to do. This isn't sitting flush, and this downside isn't either. I'm going to take some of it out and then use some inletting black to figure out where I need to go from there, but this is even close. I mean, all right, here we go. Took a little bit too much off there, but inletted the trigger guard. You can see it's pretty flat right there. I'm gonna have to watch when I sand. I'll take off a little bit more of the wood underneath, get it a little more flush, so when I sand it won't be too bad. But it's looking good so far. I'm gonna keep going. More progress. I drilled the holes for this all the way through. I just gotta go ahead and put the screws in and countersink it a little bit. Been working on the sanding. It's pretty much looking good right there. Just got a little bit, not a whole lot. I'm gonna start sanding, take off everything, start sanding down the stock, getting it ready for the stain and stuff. I'm using true birchwood Casey walnut stain. I'm gonna thin it out a bit, and then I got true oil and stock and sheen conditioner, and I'll get that going here in a little bit. Put a stain on the stock. Looks pretty good. Not too bad. We'll see how it comes up. That's about the color I wanted, maybe a little bit darker or redder, but not too bad. I'm using the Birchwood Casey's walnut stock stain. I mixed it with some water to thin it out a little bit, and I guess we'll see how it looks when it dries, buff it out a little bit, and keep going. This is it with its first coat of true oil. We're going to let it set for a good couple of days. It's looking pretty good. Let it dry, and then we'll do some other work on it. This is the fourth coat of true oil. Just rub that on in there. It's starting to coat up and shine. It's turning out too bad. A lot different than what I expected, but it came out good. We're going to do the functions check. As you can tell, it's fully seated. Pull it to a half cock. Pull the trigger, nothing happens. Pull the release, and then the trigger, nothing happens. Pull it to a full cock. Pull the trigger, and it should go forward. Alright, pull it to a full cock again. Do the release. And there we go. Full functions check. Next time that you see me, hopefully I'll be firing this thing. Test firing of the weapon. Half cock percussion cap on. Full cock. Alright, let's go see where I hit. Guess I'm not that far off. And it works. Wonder if this is where the patch hit. There's the round ball. Alright, that's it. This is the final portion of the video. It says narrate the procedure you use to complete the muzzleloader build, starting with unpacking materials and end with the test fire. Feel free to summarize and expand at least one of the steps you found particularly challenging or informative. Well, I summarized it quite a bit as we went through the build of it. What I found to be challenging or informative. Well, challenging portion was really the sanding of the stock, I guess is what it is, because there was a lot of material to take off and try to get this fitted correctly in the back. You know, watching other people's videos, I went and looked at theirs to try to get some kind of idea on how to get it done. And a lot of people took a lot of material off, and I was like, oh my God. But I found out that, you know, when I was doing it, that it really wasn't that much. Mine fitted pretty well to begin with. I had to do a little bit of inletting on the butt plate, a little bit of inletting here. I had to do some inletting on the trigger to get it in far enough, and that was kind of, a lot of people talked about that and said, don't do that, don't do that, but I had no choice to get the function check. One of the more informative stuff, I would say, is the browning of the barrel. You know, you read about rusting your barrel and then you're actually doing it, and that kind of gets you a little freaky there, that, you know, once you start doing the blowtorch, putting the stuff on, and then you let it sit and you watch it rust before you, and you're like, is that supposed to happen? And it's supposed to, you know it is. You realize this is, you know, back in the day they would do it naturally. They wouldn't have the stuff we use, like, you know, Birchwood Casey's plum to do it with, and the blowtorch, the chemical wise, and they let it rust naturally. Kind of makes you wonder who thought that up. But that's another one of those things that was really informative to me in how it works on the barrel and how it helps to preserve the barrel. I got a lot of questions because I posted part of these stuff to my Facebook page, and people are like, what are you doing? You know, you're rusting your parts, your gun. And a lot of these guys are military guys, so they're all thinking, you know, you're rusting, you rust, and don't realize how rusting can help. That's really the more informative kind of stuff in the challenge. The next one is, what procedures did you practice that you would be able to apply to modern firearms? Examples of scenarios when you could do so for each. Inletting's one of them. You know, a lot of modern firearms use polycarbons, you know, for their stuff, but you got to take some of it away if you're fitting parts together. Even in that sense, especially when you're talking about 80% lowers and stuff like that with the 1911s and stuff like that, you're still fitting parts, and that's basically what inletting is fitting parts to the stock. Well, in those cases, you're fitting parts to each other, and in that case, you had to fit, you know, trigger. You had to inlet the trigger so it would fit to the locking mechanism, and that's one of those things that you would use, you know, on modern day firearms. Another thing is, you know, modern day firearms have stocks. You know, fitting a butt plate, you can draw a comparative to fitting a limb saver or some other kind of device, a butt plate, you know, on a modern day firearm, but also many of the other kinds of recoil pads, things of that nature to a firearm. They all don't fit, and your customer may have one that particularly he likes that he's used in the past. Another portion would be staining of the stock. The sanding down to ensure that the stock is well prepared and ready for the staining process, and just the whole staining process. You never know when you're going to have to refinish an old stock for a customer, or you're going to have to start with a whole brand new stock that they give you. You know, fresh from wherever they got it or you requested and bought. And you're still going to have to sand it down, fit it to the firearm. You're still going to have to do the staining, the mixture of the staining, get the color right, get it sealed, and all that stuff. One of those things that you got to watch out for also is where you're doing it at. In this case, I did everything in my garage. I'm in North Carolina, and the humidity levels are ridiculous. And they also can change. You know, one week we might have low humidity all week, not comparable, you know, to dry heat or anything like that, but then the next one will have a large amount of humidity, and that does change the wooden stocks before they're sealed. So the fitting, refitting of different parts and stuff like that can be very comparable with modern firearms, especially when you're getting a wooden stock firearm in and you're going to have to repair it. And, you know, cowboy action shooting is one of those things. You know, you get wooden stocks for the double barrels, you get wooden stocks for the lever actions. People want to do changes and things of that nature, and they're trying to get their kids or grandkids involved, and you may have to cut down a stock for fit, things of that nature. And that kind of all plays a role. You're going to have to, once again, sand down and fit parts together. Identify and describe at least one procedure you would like to apply to further customize or improve your muzzle loader, considering the finish, function, and accuracy of the weapon? Well, I mean, this is a muzzle loader. It's not a period accurate muzzle loader, but you know, you could think about carving, inletting in this area. You know, a lot of people, especially the Pennsylvania long rifles and things of that nature, they carve stuff into the stocks. They do a little bit of inletting, but not inletting, checkering along here, but mostly they do a lot of carving. But one thing that they do in the stock that's interesting on a lot of them is they do a patch box. And that's something else I thought about in this, is maybe I could do a patch box in there. It'd have to be real small with this one, because the stock's not particularly thick back here. But you know, patches, you could put, you know, a dozen patches in it and stuff like that. You'd have to use a false screw to get it to pop up. You also could do inlay brass. A lot of them do brass displays along these issues in these in early firearms, flintlocks and percussion caps and things of that nature. And a lot of it's decorative, but some of it's functional. We all know checkering is functional for grip. Patch box is functional for holding patches and things of that nature. And that would be kind of one of those things, both functional and decorative, that I would do on this firearm in the future. And I may. We'll see how that goes. As far as accuracy and everything else, it's pretty accurate. You can see on the video, once I shot it, it was pretty good. But that's about it. And that's the end of my assignment. Thank you.